to hone your skills and to not only that, but to pour into people.
We are educating future doctors, lawyers, educators, and entrepreneurs. Our students are very important. I tell my students daily that they were great before me and they continue to be great after me, and I mean that because our students have made my teachers great and they have made me great as well.
One of the most things I appreciate about the City League is just everybody just show love. They care about me. Some of the players I enjoy playing against this year is Devin Swain, Cortez Freeman, the two guards from West, and Trey Perry. And I say that because they're high competitive players and they give me a matchup.
I really do feel in the City League we have some of the best coaches. Me being a City League alum myself, I get to relive those moments every day from practice to games, and I'm very proud to be a head coach in the Columbus City League.
I shout out George Harold, Adrian Francis, and Lamarion, because them just like older brothers to me on the court.
A lot of his success is credit to his teammates, but it's also a credit to his leadership. They're all like brothers, and they all want to see him succeed as well.
Some things I appreciate about Coach Chuck is just how he is on and off the court. Like on the court, he tells us it's the difference between liking a game and loving the game. Don't be a part-time basketball player. Then off the court, he's a really big role model because he's just not a coach to me, he's a dad. Just someone I can call on.
Dominique Akins is a special kid, kind of know his family off the court. And the relationship me and him have is bigger than basketball. We talk about a lot of things outside of basketball, and just to see him evolving in these last 2 years and what he's doing this year just goes to the testament of the type of kid he is. Very hard-nosed, and he's very special to this program, especially after losing to Mr. Basketball, and team that's won a city and district championship, and Walnut Ridge has always had the next guy ready to step up, and for him to be doing what he's doing in his junior year makes me feel proud to say that Walnut Ridge is in good hands.
I say I want to start engineering just because that's just something I've just been looking forward to since I was a young kid. And that's what my brother went to college for, so he just inspired me to do that. And when college coaches come see me, they see that I can score the ball well, I can pass it, play defense, I got a good attitude.
College coaches should recruit Dominique Akins because some of the things he's able to do and escape out of trouble, you can't teach that. What he's doing this season, averaging over 29 points in his junior year, seeing double teams being physical with him, I think he has all the tools to be successful at the next level. I know a lot of coaches probably spend a lot of time preparing for him, and the biggest jump from his sophomore year to junior year is he's able to adjust to that. So I think college coaches will just leave Walnut Ridge after watching Dominique play and just see the ultimate competitor he is on both ends of the floor. You know, he's doing big things now in his junior year, so I can only imagine what's going to take place in his senior year. I think he will be ready to, once he touches the floor freshman year, to make an immediate impact to whatever university is lucky to have him.
Our story begins in the 1950s. That's when a boy on an Italian vacation with his family brought home as many as 10 common European wall lizards to his home in Cincinnati, Ohio. He released them into his backyard, and over the years, the population in the Cincinnati area exploded. The lizards have now made their way to Columbus, specifically Columbus Downtown High School's parking lot. The issue here? As an invasive species, they could disrupt the ecosystem in Ohio and could have a negative impact on native wildlife. With that happening outside, students inside the school jumped at the opportunity to catch and study these lizards, working with Ohio Wesleyan University, the Ohio State University, and the Ohio Division of Wildlife. Mr. Hatoski's junior and senior environmental science classes are taking on the project. They were trained by OSU's Greg Lips and OWU's Eric Gangloff to master capturing techniques and handling practices.
This is a unique opportunity. Very rarely do we catch an invasive species before it spreads far out. You know, once it spreads throughout the city of Columbus, we won't be able to do anything about it. But here it's just in one little location. So it gives us an opportunity to try to capture them all and keep them from spreading throughout Columbus and further. And what we've done is we've removed all the vegetation from around the parking lot. And the lizards were very hard to capture when there was all that vegetation. They could hide down in it. So now it's barren. But we've given them ceramic tiles, laid those out all over through here to give some artificial cover, a place for the lizards to hide, and that's actually what they like. They like rock more than they like vegetation to hide in. So we're gonna keep doing this and keep checking over and over again until we're certain that we don't have any lizards remaining here. And if we accomplish that, it'll be one of the very few examples we have of successfully eradicating an invasive species before it takes hold.
I ain't gonna lie, I was like, you know, lizards, you know, there's part of the way, but then I, you know, discovered there was like rare lizards. I was like, oh, okay, this might be something that we may be able to do, just to learn, you know, more about lizards in general.
And as you're walking along, sort of thinking like a lizard, looking at any places where like the sun comes through and makes a nice like bright spot, or even in some of the leaf litter here, would be a good spot for them to go if they weren't necessarily, if the tiles weren't warm enough yet, or if they just hadn't chosen to go under one.
Quickly into their first search, lizards were spotted in their preferred habitat, cracks in the walls.
Dude, where? You're lying. Oh, look at it from here.
Did you get one?
Right there. Oh, look, this one. But I'm just telling you.
They of course love the crevices between the bricks or any cracks in any walls or foundation. It gives them a nice tight space to feel comfortable, to stay warm, to avoid elements or predators. The more of those places that we can remove on these sites, not only put the lizards a bit more out in the open where we can catch them and move them, but take away places where they could hibernate and overwinter and continue to be successful here.
But that wasn't the only place they were spotted. Researchers found more in the leaf litter along the fence.
When we do catch them, we put them in socks. Like they have air, they don't die. And it's just more comfortable for them so they're not suffocating or anything or squished.
I told you it was good. Teamwork makes the dream work. That was a good plan.
That was a good play.
But it was interesting. He knew where his hole was.
He knew exactly where he was going.
Yeah.
Oh, that one's pretty too.
It's another male. Like, they got like little checkers almost.
Yeah, they got a nice design.
Don't they? I know. They're really pretty.
It's really alive.
Yeah, he's really alive.
Can I hold it?
No, I don't want to let it go of him, but
Jump.
put your finger out and watch. And watch. You can get to feel his claws here. Watch. Feel the claws on his toes. Can you feel that? You can just see a heartbeat inside there. There it is. See the little heartbeat?
Yeah.
Doom, 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 doom. Yep. one of the approved methods
Why is
for.
breathing different when he's on his back?
Oh, I think he's stressed. He's probably very stressed out, so he's breathing. Do you want to see him?
I don't Why I don't be seeing these lizards?
No, I'm not gonna let you hold him. I'll do this, and you can feel his feet grab onto you. I'm gonna hold on to him.
Okay.
Do they jump?
Yes. They jump and they run. All right, cool. Well, it's been great to have the students involved. It's always fun for them to get to see what's living around them and also expose them to research. Not many high school students get to see that kind of work, so it's been a lot of fun. Right there. Oh.
It's a nice spot.
Oh yeah, he's pretty. And so, will they bite?
We'll find out. No?
No, it's freaking out.
Oh, you can really see the blues down there. See him on his belly?
Oh, right there. Jesse, Jesse.
Right there.
Ooh, right there. Got him.
All right. That was a big one, wasn't it?
No, this is a small one.
Soon, they almost had more than they could handle.
Unless you think you can grab him.
Did you catch it?
I don't think so.
I chose to work in the district because I grew up in Columbus City Schools. I loved my teachers. I had very compassionate, very caring, very nurturing teachers, and I had a wonderful experience. So therefore, I wanted to give back to the community because I emulate just like the teachers did for me.
I have had an amazing experience as a professional in Columbus City Schools. I had a previous work experience in the business sector, and I also worked for another school district. And I can honestly say that the most professional growth that I've ever gained in my career has been through this district. From my literacy expertise that I was able to accomplish in my time here, that occurred in Columbus City Schools. From the leadership experience and promotion and increasing my knowledge just around leading a team of people, again, occurred in Columbus City Schools.
I've always believed in giving back. I come from a family of teachers on my mom's side and military personnel on my dad's side, so we've always believed in giving back, and Columbus City Schools seemed like the perfect opportunity to give back and kind of help shape the future of the whole city I've been living in. And the city has provided so much for me, so I wanted to provide something back to the city. The most rewarding experience has been able to give our students one-to-one device. Each student in Columbus City Schools has a device today. The pandemic affected us all in different ways. We're still somewhat paying for it, social emotional issues for us personally, as well as our families and the families we serve. But the most rewarding experience I would say that has come out of it is our ability to provide for our students. We were never a one-to-one district. It was part of my dream for 3 to 5 years. We made it happen in 3 months. The leadership intern at Linden McKinley wrote to me and said, hey, this was like Christmas for some of our students. They've never unwrapped a new present. And that, made me tear up. At the same time, I was like, wow, we are able to make that impact. The team worked very hard to impact, and I was like, that is what I wanted to tell.
I feel we impact the students' success.
Hello to our entire Columbus City Schools community. My name is Makai McMutery, and I'm a student at South High School. Before we begin, for tonight's Board of Education business meeting, I invite you to check out these highlights and updates for across the district.
Greetings and welcome to this week's highlights from across the district. Celebrating a milestone moment, the CCS Winter Graduation Commencement Ceremony for the class of 2024 was held on Friday, February 2nd At our Southland Center, 3700 South High Street, amongst the crowd of proud family and friends, we celebrated the academic triumphs of 15 graduates who have reached this significant milestone. Their dedication, perseverance, and scholarly pursuits have set the stage for a promising future. Congratulations to each graduate. Your accomplishments stand as guiding lights of inspiration. As you step into new beginnings, may your journey be paved with continuous success. Get ready for a blast of positivity during Columbus City Schools' 8th Annual Relationship Week. The Office of Whole Child Supports invites you to participate in Relationship Week, which will take place from Monday, February 5th through the 9th. In conjunction with the Sandy Hook Promise, this year's theme, Cultivating Hope, embraces kindness, connection, inclusion, empathy, and belonging in every classroom, every school, across the organization, and community. Let's celebrate and enhance our relationships with colleagues, students, families, and community partners throughout the week by engaging in activities to cultivate a more hopeful and supportive environment. Remember to spread positive vibes with friendly words and smiles. It's contagious. December was a month to remember for Northland High School freshman Arleth Flores. Arleth participated in the Lexus December to Remember car competition, where her biology-themed design earned her the school competition win and subsequently was named the national winner. Arleth's whimsical design of butterflies, jellyfish, flowers, seaweed, and starfish now graces a luxurious white Lexus TX, showcasing her artistic talent and opening doors for future opportunities. This achievement truly highlights the success of unique collaborations, bridging academic achievement with community support at Northland High School. CCS is lighting the path to a bright future. On January 26th, dedicated volunteers, including local businesses and mentors, invested their time and talents to connect with a group of CCS scholars. This innovative program opened doors to workforce development and STEM outreach, creating exciting opportunities for our students. At the Ohio Department of Transportation central offices, students across the district engaged in hands-on experiences guided by industry professionals. These experiences provide valuable skills and open doors to potential internships and job placements in diverse STEM career pathways, charting a course toward a brilliant future. Thanks to partnerships with Drive Ohio, our students are connected to one-of-a-kind workforce development and STEM outreach programs, setting them up for future success. Last Friday, Starling Pre-K-8 students left for the weekend in style, thanks to the Columbus Crew's generous support. CCS staff, student leaders, and crew representatives collaborated at Starling, distributing brand new jackets to add a touch of flair to students' wardrobes, creating a memorable and stylish Friday afternoon. Additionally, the Columbus Crew visited Gables Elementary School on Friday, February 2nd, as part of our Stay in the Game initiative, focusing on attendance and reducing chronic absenteeism. The crew has been an incredible partner in these efforts, and we're witnessing positive changes due to our intentional focus on attendance and overall strategies. Friday's clap out was a great reminder of our progress as we cheer on our students for choosing to stay in the game. Cheers to retirement after incredible 50 years of impactful service with the Department of Adult and Community Education. Jim Reese bids farewell to a legacy of dedication and innovation. Jim's passion and collaborative spirit have left a lasting mark, from shaping the department's evolution to spearheading impactful programs like Latchkey and Project Connect. We are grateful for his transformative contributions as he embarks on a well-deserved retirement. The CCS community wishes Jim joy, and adventure in his next chapter. These have been your highlights from around the district for February 1st. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening. Welcome to February 6, 2024, regular business meeting of the Columbus City Schools Board of Education. Please call the roll.
Present. Mr. Cole.
Here.
Ms. Ingles. Present. Vice President Dr. Pierce. Ms. Reyes. Here. Mr. Simmons.
Present.
President Vera.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Can you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. This evening, colleagues, we do have 2 for public comment. We also will be having 4 resolutions. We do plan to hear from our superintendent. We do not presently have a report from our internal auditor. We also have a report from our our interim treasurer, in addition to a notice of public hearing on reemployment of retired employees, in addition to our consent agenda, which is items 9.1 to 25.3. We do not have anyone sign up for non-agenda items, and we do have an executive session. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Are there any objections? Hearing no objections, is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Adair.
Yes.
Mr. Cole.
Yes.
Ms. Ingles.
Yes.
Ms. Reyes.
Yes.
Mr. Simmons.
Yes.
President Vera.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. We will now move into our public comment. And I just wanted to highlight, tonight we had the opportunity, some of my colleagues and I, before every single board meeting between the hours of 5:15 and 5:45, we do have office hours at every single board meeting for an opportunity to have two-way conversations and engagement. So I wanted to make sure we highlighted that as part of just another way to be able to connect and engage with board members. Tonight, we will start with Mr. Charles Tennant. Mr. Tennant, if you could please make your way to the podium, sir. Topic, thank you. I would like the board to know that I am thankful for the input on the marquee at the Columbus Afrocentric Early College High School.
Good afternoon.
Good evening, sir.
Madam President, board members, Dr. Chapman. I come before you today to thank you for helping me and the Afrocentric School to get a marquee. The one that I envisioned, the one that I designed is exactly like it is, and I want to thank you for your support of the Afrocentric School and me. I also have someone here today, but before I get into that, Mr. Maurice Odom, would you stand? Mr. Odom was very instrumental in me doing the things that I wanted to do with that marquee. And it came from a vision, and I wanted it to be different than any other marquee I've ever seen. I went to 10, 15 different school districts looking at marquees. And if you haven't seen it, you need to go out there and see it. It is very, very special, very special. And we have someone else here that many of you may not know. When this idea of the Afrocentric School came to me 30 years ago, a vision, and I asked God for a black architect. And this gentleman came to see me. Kay, would you come up? This is the architect who came to see me, and I didn't know him, and he had some pad, and he sat down with me and asked me to go over my vision. And I did that. And when the school was being built, I was there for the first center block and the last brick. And I told Kay before that, I said, Kay, I missed a museum. And he said the plans had already been approved. And I was over there when they put in the steps to the second floor, and I saw him, and I said, we can put a marquee under these steps if we get it enclosed. So what I want to do with that, I want to put up a marquee, a museum that is second to none. You'll see no Malcolm X, no Martin Luther King. I'm going to put in pieces like Amane Sugeto, Amane Renas, Nubian Maasai warriors. And this is what I want to do. And once I get that done with your approval, it will be the last thing on my list that I wanted to do with the school. So here's Mr. K, if you want to say something.
Good evening, all. This was surprising. He says he's meeting here this evening that he wants me to be here, not knowing exactly what he's going to do, but I'll say this. I'll say this. It's a blessing, an opportunity to have met him. When we got the award to design the school, I was told that Afrocentric School is his vision and passion. So I requested to meet with him, and then he told me what he wanted. I said, as an architect, the only thing I can do is to translate your dream. I'm not able to dream it for you, but I'll be able to translate your dream. So that was an opportunity he gave us. But since I'm saying that, I will also have an opportunity to recognize Alex Trevino, who was the assistant chief architect, right, for the school. He worked with us diligently to make sure we were able to achieve the dream within the budget, right? So thank you.
Thank you.
Also thank you for the opportunity. God bless you.
Thank you both. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I'll need your support on doing the museum underneath the steps at the Afrocentric School. And once I get it done, it will be something you've never seen before. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Tennant. All right. Now we will have President Nana Watson. Topic Board Agenda Item 16.2. I want to know why the board continues to use the Cooperative Board Purchasing Agreement with Brewer Garrett Company. President Watson, good evening.
Thank you so much, President Vera, board members, and Superintendent Chapman. The Columbus branch of the NAACP wants to know why the Cooperative Purchasing Agreement is used for the Brewer Garrett Company to the tune of $860,000. You entered, I think, last year, a cooperative purchasing agreement with John Lux Construction for the renovation of Scottwood to the tune of $2 million plus. Same is true of the sightlines for an assessment of the schools to the tune of $505,000. These companies are not located in Columbus. Are there no local companies in the purchasing agreement, which is part of the state of Ohio? In reviewing the LED outreach, it says 20% LED participation. Then it goes on to say, outreach department was notified of the opportunity. Yes. District's LED list was reviewed, not applicable. Outreach coordinator participated in the selection process, not applicable. Purchase agreement was unbundled. Yes, I could go on and on and on, but you all have this before you. So we want to know why you're doing this. Taxpayer dollars, again, leaving our community and going to other cities. Lastly, 3 of the 5 pieces of legislation you will be voting on are utilizing the cooperative purchasing agreement, which hinders any local participation. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, President Watson. All right, colleagues, now we will move into our board matters. We have 4 resolutions this evening. Our first resolution is to recognize and celebrate Black History Month. So at this time, we would like to have Ms. Jeanette Johnson and Mr. Stephen Ingram please come to the podium. And we will have our board member Cole with the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. To recognize February as Black History Month and to celebrate the contributions of my friend, Ms. Jeanette Johnson and Mr. Stephen Ingram for the strides they have made to promote equity and social justice. Whereas Black History Month began in 1926 when Dr. Carter G. Woodson, an educator, set aside a time to recognize the heritage and achievements of African Americans, Black History Month is consistent with the district's mission of empowering students for success. And whereas the board applauds Mrs. Johnson and Mr. Stephen Ingram, who were recognized by the Columbus Education Association as their peers for successfully preparing students to reach their full potential. They were nominated for the Helen Jenkins Davis Award, which recognizes educators that have promoted social justice, diversity, and civil rights. Mrs. Davis fought for the right to educate children of Columbus in 1918 as one of the first African American teachers. After years of discrimination, she led the 1976 lawsuit, which brought about the order of desegregating Columbus City Schools. That's Pinnock v. Brown, Pinnock v. Board of Education. Whereas Black History Month was modeled or molded from the mind of an educator who believed that equity and social justice should not be excluded from American history, as Black history is American history. Mrs. Jeanette Johnson, a K-8 teacher at Berwick Middle School, or that's Berwick K-8, and Mr. Stephen Ingram, a music teacher at Lyndon McKinley STEM Academy, embody these principles and continue to teach and motivate students to learn positively, influencing how they think, act, and ultimately their impact upon communities' future. And now therefore be resolved that the Columbus City Schools Board of Education hereby recognize February as Black History Month and celebrates the contributions of Mrs. Johnson and Mr. Stephen Ingram for their strides to promote equity and social justice. Madam President?
Is that a motion, Board Member Cole?
Yes, it is.
All right, second, Ramona Reyes. Please call the roll.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Ingles?
Yes.
Vice President Dr. Pierce?
Yes.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
President Vera?
Yes.
Ms. Adair?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Yeah, we're gonna take a quick photo. All right, we will move into our second resolution. This evening, we would like to please have Miss Jenny Mead meet us at the podium. And board member, my brain just went, Ingalls has the resolution.
Did you want to say English? I have a resolution to recognize February as Career and Technical Education Month. Whereas February 1st through the 29th, 2024 has been designated Career and Technical Education Month, as CTE offers students the opportunity to gain the academic, technical, and employability skills necessary for true career readiness. And whereas students in CTE programs participate in authentic, meaningful experiences that improve the quality of their education and increase their engagement and achievement. And whereas CTE provides students with career exploration opportunities earlier in their educational experience, which enables them to make informed and beneficial decisions about their academic coursework and pursue established programs of study and career pathways. And whereas leaders from business and industry nationwide report increasing challenges related to addressing the skills gap and connecting qualified professionals with careers in critical and growing CTE-related fields, such as advanced manufacturing, cybersecurity, energy, healthcare, information technology, and transportation. And whereas CTE prepares students for these and other fulfilling careers by offering integrated programs of study that link secondary and post-secondary education and lead to the attainment of industry-recognized credentials. And whereas CTE programs ensure that employers have access to qualified and thriving workforce, ensuring our nation is a strong and competitive economy. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Columbus City Schools Board of Education hereby recognizes February as Career and Technical Education Month. And be it further resolved that the Columbus Board of Education urges Columbus residents to become familiar with the services and benefits offered by career and technical education programs in our district and to support and participate in these programs to enhance their individual skills and productivity. I will make the motion for the resolution.
Second. All right. Please call the roll.
Ms. Ingalls?
Yes.
Vice President Dr. Pierce?
Yes.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
President Vera?
Yes.
Ms. Adair?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Motion carries.
They want to say something.
Yeah, go ahead.
They want to
Okay.
say something.
So President Vera, Vice President Dr. Pierce, Superintendent Dr. Chapman, and board members, thank you so much for the support of our students and championing career tech education. I am the proud director of CTE in the district, and this month allows us to highlight the great accomplishments of our CTE students, the opportunities our students receive through their programs, and the importance of career tech education being an option for all students in Columbus City Schools. Tonight, we have a student and a staff member who are just going to share some highlights, but no, President Vera, we are on the search from your program of pharmacology. We think we found a picture from you being in it, so it's going to make an appearance maybe on social media. So we have two spotlights we'd like to quickly feature.
Hi, my name is Amira Bridgewater. I am speaking on behalf of myself and my teacher, Miss Pate. I am currently a senior enrolled in medical laboratory program at Fort Hays Career Center, as well as a student at Columbus State Community College. My future plans consist of getting an associate's degree from Columbus State, which I am currently working on in my College Credit Plus course at Fort Hays, and then transferring to a four-year university with my long-term goal of becoming a physician. My medical laboratory program is teaching me the importance of healthcare and different skills like medical coding, phlebotomy, CPR, and first aid. I've also had the opportunity to participate and be a part of a student leadership organization, also known as Skills USA. I'm the president of Skills USA, and we organize leadership events. We learn and teach our fellow students about professionalism, communication, and we also give back to our community through community service. We work with a young adult facility called Star House. For those who are not familiar with Star House, it is a resource for homeless youth ages 14 to 24. It provides them with access to food, clothing, and internet. Our Health Science Career Center has donated lots of items such as clothes, hygiene products, and hair care and winter wear. This year, we are planning on going to Star House and volunteering to sort items. In conclusion, my CTE program has awarded me with skills that I can use in my future for my profession, college, and workplace, and in life. Thank you for allowing me to share my experience.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Regina Scott. I am the Career Tech Academic Specialist at Columbus Downtown High School. I am honored to be a part of Career Technical Education for Columbus City Schools. We have amazing opportunities for our CCS students to choose careers that will prepare them for college, the workforce, and the military. Every student enrolled in a CTE program participates in Career Tech student organizations. On March 1st, some of our students will be competing in the regional Skills USA events, such as crime scene investigation, firefighting skills, interview, and prepared speech. Also on March 1st, our public safety students will be volunteering at the Arnold Sports Festival to help with security. Knowing that the Board of Education supports career technical education greatly increases our efforts to provide quality programming and life-changing opportunities for our students. Thank you for that. Thank you again for recognizing career tech education, our incredible students, and the amazing work our CTE staff does each and every day. Thank you.
Thank you.
But I really do.
All right. And now we will move into Resolution 4.3, which is our National School Counseling Week. If we could please have William Mitchell please come to the podium. And Board Member Adair has the resolution.
To recognize February 5th through 9th, 2024 as National School Counseling Week in the Columbus City School District. National School Counseling Week focuses on the unique contributions of school counselors and their impact upon student success and their role in helping students to plan for their careers. School counselors are employed to help students reach their potential. Their commitment helps students explore their strengths, interests, and talents, ultimately enabling students to successfully identify traits related to career readiness. School counselors are essential to the matriculation process as they work with parents and educators to identify resources that enhance the educational experience for students. Columbus City Schools believes that school counselors aid the district's success. School counselors close opportunity gaps and are part of the whole child approach, which broadens the school focus beyond academics and meets students' social, emotional, physical, and safety needs, qualities that aid student success. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the Columbus City Schools Board of Education hereby recognizes February 5th through 9th, 2024 as National School Counseling Week in the Columbus City School District. And be it further resolved that the Columbus Board of Education encourages students to thank their school counselors and express appreciation to faculty members and stakeholders that help promote school counseling in our district. That is a motion.
Is there a second? Thank you. Please call the roll.
Vice President Dr. Pierce?
Yes.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
President Vera?
Yes.
Ms. Adair?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Ingles?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
I am proud to accept this resolution on behalf of our amazing school counselors. Thank you.
Thank you. If we have any school counselors in the audience, please feel free to also join in this photo. All right, so we will move on to Resolution 4.4, which is in honor of our 8th Annual Relationship Week. If Mr. Tyree Rivers could please join us at the podium. And Board Member Reyes has the resolution.
Thank you. To recognize February 5th through the 9th, 2024 as the 8th Annual Relationship Week in the Columbus City School District, whereas caring and supportive relationships are important to the learning, well-being, and success of students each day across Columbus City Schools, we have staff, students, families, and community partners that are dedicated to building positive, inclusive learning environments. And whereas the Columbus Board of Education is asking district stakeholders to join us in celebrating the 8th Annual Columbus City Schools Relationship Week by taking part in the activities that reaffirm our compassion, respect, trust, and love for one another. In the end, aiding our community with building social and emotional support for our students, staff, and others who are invested in the district. And whereas Relationship Week is designed to emphasize the power of simple acts, like saying hello to a stranger, providing acts of kindness, forgiving one another, and ensuring that no one eats alone, reinforcing the belief that we are safer together. And whereas we recognize that our success is rooted in our compassion, respect, trust, and love that we have in serving one another, we embrace the credence that anyone can be great because everyone can serve. Now therefore be it resolved that the Columbus City School Boards of Education hereby recognize February 5th through the 9th of 2024 as the 8th Annual Relationship Week in the Columbus City School District.
That's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
President Vera?
Yes.
Ms. Adair?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Ingles?
Yes.
Vice President Dr. Pierce?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
And Board President Vera, board members, and Dr. Chapman, we would just like to say, Chaka Jope and I thank you on behalf of the committee for recognizing Relationship Week and the value of what relationships mean and that connection to grounding us to really be in a community that cares, loves, and nurtures on each other. We appreciate your support, and for all the committee members who are in the audience, who are watching online, we thank all of you for all of your work and dedication with this also. Thank you.
And if there are any team members with PBIS or any of the team, please feel free to also join in the photo. Before we move on, I just realized that everyone got to say a couple of sentiments. So I wanted to circle back to Ms. Jeanette Johnson or Mr. Stephen Ingram. If you had any thoughts that I wanted to give you the opportunity, we were so excited to take a photo next to you that I didn't want to take away the opportunity for you to give any remarks.
I just wanted to say thank you to the school board for your constant support throughout my 35 years of teaching with the Columbus City Schools. And in my heart, there's nothing that my scholars can't do. I believe they can do it, and they can do it. So with that, I would like to say once more, thank you very much for your ongoing support and for visiting, coming out and visit Berwick at any time when you feel like it. This year, we're doing our family reunion for Black History on the 26th. You're welcome to come out, and the kids are happy to see you when you walk through the doors. So I'll send invitations to each of you personally to come and join Berwick this year. Our Black History theme is Family Reunion. Thank you.
I would like to say thank you to the board for the continuous support. Thank you for always letting us do what we do. Thank you so much for letting my students, as we say in our band room, keep raising the bar until excellence becomes a habit. I would like to invite all board members, superintendent, all of us, so we are having our second annual Spring Fest Battle of the Bands. We would like to promote, one of the things we are trying to do in this city is promote culture and promote the good things that are happening and letting us rise above a narrative that our students seem to have and not live through it. So we wanted to make sure we also have our annual spring concert on March 27th. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. All right, Madam Superintendent, how are you this evening?
I am well.
Wonderful. We will hand it over to you.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, President Vera, Vice President Pierce, members of the board, and community. I want to thank you for this opportunity to provide an update on our Community Facilities Task Force. During our last meeting, we laid the foundation for this work. In this report, I will review again the rationale, timeline, representation of the task force, and introduce the charge for the Community Facility Task Force. I would like to note that the first 6 slides of this presentation will look familiar and are repeated from our last meeting. Given the importance of this work, I thought it was critical for us to continue to reiterate this background information, which certainly underscores the importance of it. Over the past 18 months, some key themes emerged from our community about what they expect from us as a district, particularly as it relates to our facilities. We have heard that we want our students in warm, welcoming environments where they are getting the best instruction that leads to excellent student outcomes. We want the district to be diligent and transparent stewards of public funds. We want our schools to be centers of strength and connection in our community. Some of the upcoming actions we're taking to align our strategic priorities to these themes include partnering with the community to reimagine a portfolio of high schools and feeders that offer a continuum of programs such as career technical education, international baccalaureate, advanced placement, community schools, and community-based services aligned to local and regional workforce opportunities. Developing and implementing a multi-year plan to adapt facilities, technology, and transportation to align to our vision of portrait-ready instruction. As a part of our statement of facts from the recent levy, we discussed general fund assumptions, including the consolidation of buildings to reduce overall building costs. This information was presented and approved by the Board of Education in the Statement of Facts on September 19, 2023. During the Statements of Facts discussion, we demonstrated how the district spends more resources on operations and maintenance than national comparison districts driven by higher spending on facilities maintenance and transportation than districts of similar size nationally and large urban school districts across the state of Ohio. In addition, CCS spends more on facilities and maintenance per school than national comparison districts, which could be related to the age of our CCS buildings. Over half of our buildings are over 50 years old or are considered legacy buildings and have not been through a major renovation. To accomplish the work of addressing facilities, the Board of Education has a policy in which the superintendent creates and provides a list of internal and external participants for approval by the Board of Education to seat a facility task force. The Community Facility Task Force will consider many factors when making their recommendations, including but not limited to school enrollment, facility condition, and educational programming, among others. Board Policy 7105 outlines all of the factors to be considered. We anticipate the Facility Task Force will meet from February to June with the goal of meeting twice per month in the Assembly Room at 270 East State Street. Our goal is to have a final recommendation to address our facilities to the Board of Education by the middle of June this year. We anticipate the recommendations will begin to take effect no sooner than school year 25-26. We recognize community engagement will be critical throughout this process and will provide multiple avenues for our community to give feedback and recommendations for consideration. Tonight, we are bringing a list of recommended Facility Task Force members for Board of Education approval. In your board agenda, you'll see the full list of representatives that we are recommending for this task force. Certainly, we have representation from a diverse group of stakeholders, including students, parents, and caregivers, CCS labor organizations, community organizations and social service agencies, faith-based organizations, local government, city and county, higher ed partners, small businesses and large businesses, and representatives from CCS representing staff as well as administration. Currently, to date, we have a confirmed 28 members for the Facility Task Force. Please know that the actual student names are not actually listed on the task force list in an effort to protect their privacy as minors, but we do have actual students identified by name. Again, the charge for the Community Facilities Task Force would like to review the charge for this task force. I want to acknowledge that there is no predetermined list of buildings to consolidate or close at this time. This will be the work of the task force. The charge of the task force will be to issue a report by the beginning of June 2024 that specifies whether or not school and admin buildings in the district should be closed or consolidated. If there are specific schools and admin buildings in the district that the task force identifies for closure, the report should list those schools and admin buildings as a recommendation. Each recommendation must have a statement of rationale. The determination of which schools in the district are candidates for closure must be based on the overall balance and objectivity of the 14 factors listed in Board Policy 7105. In making the decision on whether or not to close schools, the task force must also address possible impacted student enrollment zones and the relocation of students and staff. Before considering any admin buildings to close, the task force must also determine the factors that should be used to make determination to close admin buildings. This decision is required because Board Policy 7105 is specifically focused on schools. The board does not have a policy at this time on the closing of admin buildings. The relocation of staff is a factor that the task force must address for the closing of admin buildings as well. Both draft and final reports will be made available to students, parents, and the community via our webpage for public feedback prior to the board's final vote. Next steps, we are working to schedule the first meeting of the Community Facility Task Force, which will be coming up next week on Tuesday, February 13th. We will be launching a website that houses all of the information on the Community Facility Task Force to include data, presentations, meeting minutes, and engagement opportunities. We also want to acknowledge and appreciate it will be difficult for our community to consolidate or close schools. This is always a tough decision, but this is certainly a decision that we need to consider and need to move forward with. We will strive to do this work in a spirit of transparency, engagement, and mutual respect. And at this time, I will certainly prepare to answer any questions that you have about the Community Facility Task Force and the recommendations.
Board Member Simmons?
Thank you. You know, first, I would like to start out and just say that I'm excited that we're beginning this process. I think about the opportunity that lies ahead for our district. I had the chance to have lunch with our students at John Burroughs Elementary School last week, where I started my journey with the district, and that's one of our recently renovated buildings. And I thought about, you know, growing up in the district in buildings that have not been renovated, and now having the chance to see more of those as a board member. I thought about the opportunity for all of our students to have that level of facility investment in the wonderful learning spaces that they deserve. With that being said, I do have some questions. I have two. The first being, what accountability guardrails are in place to ensure the task force delivers to the board actionable recommendations by the end of June? And then, would you like me to wait for the second?
Yes.
Thank you, Board Member Simmons, for the first question. In terms of accountability, the task force will be meeting regularly between February and June. There will be certainly team members from the administration and the staff that will be supporting the work of the task force and kind of nudging the community conversations along. In addition to that, there'll be a work group internally that we have to stand up that will support the task force. So when the task force wants data on enrollment for certain feeder patterns, or the task force wants data on projections, the committee that was working behind the scenes will be there in place to support the work that the Community Facility Task Force is making. So we'll make sure that we're keeping the conversations moving. Certainly, we want to make sure that we're honoring the time of our community members who are taking time out of their schedule to attend to this very important conversation. And we will make sure that the task force is prepared to provide recommendations to the board as promised based on our timeline.
Thank you. And then my second question, it was brought to my attention by a couple of our community organizations before the board meeting that several members of the task force do not live in the district. And it gave me some pause, some hesitancy. I think about, our folks who are not reliant on the district for employment, or they don't send their kids to the district, or they don't pay taxes into the district, they don't vote on levies. Do they have the necessary care and investment and empathy for the district to be able to serve on this committee and make the best decisions for our students?
So certainly, I think that is a perspective that we should always consider. One of the first tasks that we are going to engage in with the task force is asking them their connections to CCS. Everyone has identified that they are passionate about this work and passionate about the conversation and vowed to actively engage in the conversation. So some members of the task force may be a member of, may have graduated from CCS, they may have a student in CCS, they may have worked in CCS, and they may be a community member. We certainly see that our reach certainly to our community is far and wide, while some members may have are currently a member of the district or currently attending the district, or they also may have historical connections. But we will certainly be able to provide a matrix that shows from the entire task force their connections and their investment to this and very important work in the district.
Thank you. Was residency considered for as part of the criteria to serve on the task force?
Residency was not a sole criteria. Certainly wanted to make sure that we have residents of the district on the task force, but it was not the sole criteria. We were certainly looking for diversity. We're certainly looking for representation from sister agencies and nonprofits. And so we reached out to them and asked them if they would have a representative that would be willing to commit to this conversation.
Thank you.
Board Member Vice President Pierce.
Thank you so much, President. Just a couple of questions, Dr. Chapman, as it relates probably to the community engagement aspect of our task force. There are a number of community members who volunteered, wanted to serve on the task force that have not been recommended to serve on the task force. How can such individuals participate, give feedback that is meaningful, meaning that it's a two-way dialogue?
Thank you, Dr. Pierce, for that question. I think that certainly we wanted to make sure that the task force did not become too unwieldy by having, we wanted to limit it in our, thinking about the number of members on the task force. But certainly as members, we do have some representatives that said that they would be interested should there be if someone maybe has signed up for the task force and is no longer able to commit, they can certainly join or consider joining the task force at a later date, but there will be opportunities to be engaged in the conversations. One of the ways that we have already updated our website, working on updating our website so that we can have all of the minutes, agendas, as well as we'll have links to surveys, but that will be ongoing work. The conversations that we'll be having with the community will certainly be providing updates to the board in our board meetings so that the entire community will have an opportunity to provide feedback to this very important conversation. So the reach will certainly extend well beyond the actual task force members.
Thank you for that.
All right. So we'll move on to item 5.2, a resolution. Vice President Pierce.
Resolution recommending members to the Superintendent, CEO, Community Facilities Task Force. Whereas Columbus City Schools Policy 7100 directs the superintendent to monitor district enrollment and building usage, capacity, and conditions. And whereas Columbus City Schools District Board Policy 7105, in determining which school or schools shall be closed, directs the superintendent to create a task force comprised of internal and external participants to be approved by the Board of Education. And whereas the Columbus Board of Education also wishes to maximize the efficiency of the administration and support buildings in the district. And now therefore be it resolved that the Columbus Board of Education approves the following recommended names from the superintendent to serve on the facilities task force. Do we need to read all the names through, or can we take them as written in record?
I was gonna say, I think you're fine with it being.
Are we fine?
You know,
Okay. For our community members that are interested, all names are listed in the resolution.
Is that a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Simmons,
Yes.
President Vera,
Yes.
Ms. Adair,
Yes.
Mr. Cole,
Yes.
Ms. Ingles,
Yes.
Vice President Dr. Pierce,
Yes.
Ms. Reyes,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Superintendent.
Thank you.
All right, good evening, Interim Internal Auditor O'Connor. How are you, sir?
Good evening, President Vera. I just wanted to let everybody know we had a great audit and accountability meeting on January 25th, and there'll be a detailed report coming to all the members of the board in the coming days.
Thank you, sir. Okay. All right, so we're going to head over to our interim treasurer, Ms. Vanover. How are you this evening?
I am wonderful. How are you?
Wonderful. And you have a report for us.
Yes, I do have a quarterly report to report out on for the quarter ending December 31st. Okay. So before we get into the quarterly variances, we do have just a year-to-date financial overview. Year-to-date revenues are up 17.5 million, which is approximately 3.6 above the plan that we have laid out based on the forecast. Most of this is due to state funding, which is a function of the fact that we have factored in the transportation penalty that has not yet been assessed. So it artificially inflates those revenue numbers. So we just need to keep that in mind. On the expenditure side, year-to-date, our variance is 7.6 million above plan, and the cash balance is above plan by about 9.9 million. So as we look into the quarter-to-date revenue, again, this is for October through December. Again, the state foundation is the biggest driver of the revenue increase, and it all factors into that transportation penalty. And I do want to point out that the transportation penalty that is built into this fiscal year for that is including both the amount for the fiscal year 24 as well as fiscal year 23, because fiscal year 23 was never assessed. So we carried that balance forward so that we didn't put ourselves in a situation where we didn't have enough available to cover both years. So once we figure out how that, is all going to play out, we do have that built in for both years. On the other revenue, we were up a little bit, which is primarily, am I not loud enough? Nobody can hear me. Which is primarily a function of a CRA payment that was received. And again, some of that is timing. Last 2 years, we've received it in the first quarter. This year, it was received in October. So as it relates to the plan, it's just a timing issue. But the one thing I do want to point out, we actually received a $1.2 million increase as it relates to the CRA payment, which is primarily driven by Cover My Meds, which is one of the abatements that was put in place a while back, and they have reached their staffing numbers, so we are now getting revenue sharing funds for that. So again, there was an increase of, I think, a little over $900,000 related to Cover My Meds. So again, good news that we're getting some additional revenue sharing from those. Okay, in revenues, again, this is a lot of redundancies, but again, the state foundation is the primary driver. You can see that $9 million for the quarter, as well as the 15 or so million for the year. And again, given that we have 15 million built in for both 23 and 24, that's essentially what we're off. If we did not have that transportation penalty coming off, we would be right on plan with what we were expecting. The other revenues, our investments have come in better than expected, and that's even having backed off some of our investments, waiting to see how the legislature was going to address some of the reappraisal issues. So we were worried about potential cash flow issues that we have since gotten resolved, but we held off on some of the reinvestments. But even with that, we have had improvements in our investments in terms of the amounts, as well as the CRA payments. The $3 million variance you see in the other financing sources, again, is a timing issue. We did a transfer for the qualified school construction bonds, affectionately known as Q-Scoobies. Those, we receive a subsidy from the state for that. Again, it was a timing. We've reflected the payment coming or being transferred over. It was supposed to come in September. We actually didn't get it done until October. So it's just timing. The numbers are all on point. And again, year to date, the state foundation driver is, again, the transportation penalty piece. When we get into the other revenues, kind of a little bit more detailed, since it's a larger category. Interest on investments, as I mentioned before, we have actually seen some improvements. Again, we worked with our investment advisors at the beginning of the year to get a very specific, clear-cut number of what we were expecting based on investments that were made. So the only variance that we really anticipated was reinvestment of those funds as they matured. We did hold that for a little while, waiting on the result of House Bill 187 and its potential impact on cash flow. Luckily, that did not go where we were hoping it would not go. So as a result of that, we have advised our investment advisors we can look into reinvestment now, again, because our cash flow needs are where they need to be. The negative variance showing on the Medicaid reimbursement, we normally get 2 to 3 monthly payments through just the claims that get filed on a regular basis. We have not yet received the catch-up for prior years. There's typically a large settlement for prior years because they go back, they review and all that. This was actually discussed at ANA last month. Robin Floyd provided a very nice report about that. We expect to get a little over $5.5 million this year, but again, that has not been received at this point. So the reason it's showing lagging is because we haven't received that true-up type payment for prior years, but we are continuing to get the monthly payments that we expect. Let's see here. We already talked through the pilots like I say, the pilots and the income tax sharing is the increase in the CRA that's related to Cover My Meds, as well as some of the increases with other CRAs that we have. On the expenditure side, personnel is pretty much on point. It's up 0.2%, so we're pretty on pace there. Purchase services and supplies is up 12.2%, about 1.8 million. Supplies is down a little bit year to date. We're pretty on point. Purchase services and supplies year to date are up, but it's primarily due to an increased amount of carryover encumbrances. It's continuing to carry forward from the first quarter. So when we look more in depth with the expenditures, personnel costs again are right on plan, variance being just over 1.5%. Again, the higher carryover encumbrances and timing of payments this year versus at the end of last year is what's driving the higher numbers in the first 2 quarters for purchase services and supplies. And again, the other financing sources is a timing issue, again, related. We had our final payment on our bus purchase bonds. The transfer that occurred was just posted a month late. So plan on the number, it's exactly on, but the timing in comparison to the plan is a month off. So it affected the quarter. And this just shows kind of a graph of how the personnel costs go month to month. You can see since our 3 pay months hit the same time, we're pretty much mirroring the prior year, but we are very much on plan and everything's trending appropriately. So, and this is just a recap of the front again. I will open it up for any questions.
Any questions? Board Member Simmons?
Thank you. Keeping in mind the transportation penalty and the increase in revenue to the district through the Fair School Funding Plan, if we were to have to pay the $15 million in transportation penalties, would we be gaining or losing the additional revenue brought to the district by the Fair School Funding Plan?
We would be positive by about 5 million. We gained about 20 million on the year. And if what we estimated at 15 million per year would come through, then we'd be positive about 5.
Okay. Thank you. And then just my second question is, in light of House Bill 126, is there an estimate from the Treasurer's Office about how much revenue that might be a lost from what we would have been able to challenge in property tax valuations? Is there an estimate as to how much revenue we might be missing out on? I know that might be something you have to get back to me on, and that's all right.
And it's interesting because we're just getting ready to bring all those fund resolutions to you. If you looked at last year's February meeting, there were roughly 196, I think, resolutions in a second consent agenda to address that. We just received the list from the attorneys that we work with to do those challenges for us. We just received that this afternoon. So we'll be getting that to you, and we'll be working to get you a number.
So we'll have a clearer picture maybe in 2 or 3 months?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, all right, thank you, Treasurer Vanover. All right, colleagues, we will move on to notice of public hearing on reemployment. Pursuant to the Ohio Revised Code, Section 3309.345, the Columbus Board of Education gives notice that Kimberly L. Randall, who retired from Columbus City Schools effective May 31st, 2022, as a science teacher, is seeking employment with the Columbus City Schools as a science teacher effective April 10th, 2024. The board will hold a public hearing on April 9th, 2024 at 6 p.m. in the boardroom at 3700 South High, Columbus, Ohio, on the issue of Ms. Randall's reemployment. We will move on to our consent agenda. We are going to consider a consent agenda. Our consent agenda consists of items 10.1 to 25.3. Are there any items a member would like to have removed and voted on individually from the consent agenda? Okay. Seeing none, is there a second to approve our consent agenda?
Oh,
Oh, I didn't see you. Okay, sorry. You have a discussion? Okay. And what's the item number?
After the
Move in second and then discussion.
Okay, okay.
I'll move.
Second.
Okay. Please call the roll.
No.
No, now it's
Oh, sorry, I got confused. All right, thank you. Now discussion. And what's the item number, Board Member Simmons?
16.1, 16.2, 16.3, and 18.1, as well as 18.2.
Got it. All right. All right, so we will start at 16.1. Board Member Simmons?
Yes, so I understand there were some internal conversations about the difference between the pricing the Columbus City School District was quoted versus pricing with maybe some surrounding districts and some cooperatives. Perhaps the internal auditor would be able to speak more eloquently about it than I am. But the management response was that we are having significant add-ons, I think 22 different add-ons to our buses that increase the cost. And I was just curious as to what those additional add-ons are and why our students might need those additional services or add-ons on the bus versus students in other districts.
Madam Superintendent?
If Go ahead.
You have a question? That's the question you're asking.
What are
right?
the 22 additional add-ons and why are those necessary? Why might those be necessary for our students versus students in other districts?
Okay, thank you, Board Member Simmons, for your question. We have members of our operations team here that should have that information to share with you. Thank you, Maurice.
Good evening, President Vera, to Board Member Simmons. Those add-ons that you see are items that, like mitigation for brake safety, there are safety items that's required to be on the buses. What you're speaking of on the cooperative, those cooperative that was in the listing of the cooperative are items just the base of a bus. And then those other items in there, some of the vendors in that cooperative bid and some did not bid it because they may not have offered those offerings. But the items that's added are what's in the specs of our bus based on Ohio guidelines are items that's required or in our bus for safety reasons. So when you looked at the cooperative, when we did cross comparison, there's 21 additional items that's part of our specs for our bus. We did a cross comparison. There's many of those vendors did not offer 17 of those items, or you have to put those out for bid. These are items that's part of the specs that's on our bus.
So
for example, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Some of the things are like brake mitigation. So it has devices, sort of like your newer cars, it helps for steering. It helps to, when you get too close, to brake the bus. It's a lot of safety features that's added onto our bus. But most buses, when you go bid those buses, are just a base bus. And then you have to add those other things. For example, whether it's seat belts or could be lifts, could be different things. I'm just giving an example. I'm not saying it's on those buses, but there's a whole list of in our specs that's part of the bid.
Is it that perhaps other districts are adding those on through a different contract later on, or they're forgoing those items?
So when you look at that cooperative, the cooperative is bidded on the base bus. And again, I can only speak when we see the cooperative. It's bidded on the base bus. Then those other items that's necessary, that's needed, then that's another additional cost that even those vendors in the cooperative would add to their base bid. Then you get a base price.
Thank you. And then why not, why go with a cooperative agreement rather than a competitive bid process?
So this was a competitive bid process.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Our bus purchase was a competitive bid, but for the buses, just to be clear, because many times smaller districts would go with cooperative for the buying power. Our volume, in many cases, we get a better pricing outside the cooperative in some cases as well. Many times, if we go into the cooperative, it could be a benefit for the smaller district opposed to what we get if we bid single. So therefore, in some cases, we could potentially be paying more costs.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. One of the reasons I did have those additional questions is because the management response to the internal auditors agenda review is something I did not see until after 5 o'clock today, and it becomes difficult for me to provide the care and consideration I know our community expects us to make, especially all of us to make on legislation if we're not being provided the full picture until right before our board meeting begins. But I appreciate you answering those questions and that you have definitely provided some clarity.
If I may respond, my team responded to that response to an email to the internal auditor and copied others last week as well.
Right, right. I'm sure, but I did not see it until after 5 p.m. today.
All right. Thank you, Board Member Simmons. Board Member Pierce.
Yes, thank you so much. So I'm not sure if this is a question for Mr. Odom or if this is a question for Superintendent Chapman. I think the questions that are probably going to come around 16.1, 16.2, 16.3, 18.1, and 18.2 relate to how our bidding structure is currently working, the cooperative bids versus the competitive bids. And so I think if we could have more clarity on how that process is occurring prior to board meeting, and maybe a high-level executive summary during board meeting of how it occurred, it would be extremely beneficial and helpful. But I just wanted to say that I think a lot of my questions are around, at one point when we purchase, we're purchasing through a competitive agreement. Then somewhere along the line, it shifts to this cooperative agreement, and there's little to no explanation given. Can somebody speak to that maybe, or how we can resolve the two?
So make sure I'm clear, your question is about competitive bidding process compared to using cooperative.
My question is around how can we be more clear in how we decide to shift between the two processes, who determines when that shift occurs, and the timeline by which that shift can occur.
So that's a multi-answer, but just to try to give you some content on it at this point, each procurement commodity, you look at that commodity to determine what's the appropriate bidding process. And there's many different things that you take into effect. For example, if we're looking at something maybe if timing is an important portion of it because of the timing. You may look at what is the timing of the bid process, the competitive process. Is that a 3-month process? Is that a 6-month process? Or if there's a cooperative, which is you're piggybacking on a cooperative bidding process or that's already taken place that was bidded through a cooperative, those bidding processes taking place, and sometimes that shorten the window of the work that needs to be done. For example, just a quick example, if it's a work that needs to be done over the summer, as we know, we have a compressed timeline over the summer to get work done. So you have to look at what is the most effective approach, time-wise as well, to get that work done. If you got to bid it out, and if timeline is going to go over to impact school year, you might have to look at other alternatives. But again, we can look at that even more deeper. This is giving a quick summary.
One additional question. As it relates to the bids that are the resolutions, the items that have been noted thus far, and previous ones, there seems to be a pattern where we are spending more after the fact. After we approve something, then it comes back to us with additional cost. Is it possible to do an analysis to determine how often that happens within our operations unit and our bidding process?
Yeah, I would just need to know which ones we're speaking of, because I'm only not aware of those individuals, but we can definitely take a look.
If we just looked at your legislation that's coming out of operations, would you be able to give us analysis on how often within the bidding process our district is charged more for bids, second go around or third go around, after we've approved?
Yes, I could take a look at that again. I'm not aware of those bids getting higher after that, unless it's a first phase, second phase. But on a particular bid, if the bid has closed, I'm not aware of that. But I'll take a look at that and do the analysis of that.
I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Board Member Adair.
I have similar comments as Dr. Pearson, Mr. Simmons around this. I think that, there is a need and necessity for cooperative agreements at the right time and space, and I think it's something we have to start to look into, because what the problem is, it's in direct conflict with our goals around LEDE. And so, you know, I think that what you're hearing now is this board's interest in really leaning into that and making sure we have strong policy, because we know we've made that commitment that, you know, around a whole child, we need a community that can support them. And that means that we are investing our government dollars back into our community. And so I think that at this point, it's, you know, incumbent on the board to really put this kind of work into thought and look at our own policies and practices around this to provide the kind of guidance and support that our administrative team needs and resources to actually meet the goals that we have set forth. And, you know, I think that sometimes, you know, perhaps as you know, Mr. Olam outlined, a cooperative agreement could be the way to go, but we just need more information about that and really thinking through that in terms of using it as a tool for efficiency versus helping to maintain our LEDE values and goals that we're trying to accomplish. I do also want to highlight, though, on a positive side, that some of these are investments, just to point out to the community, through our permanent improvement fund, which again, we're going to start to see more of this type of investment because of the passage of our levy. And I know that the bus is something that the buses are something we already, you know, decided on, but that's an example of how the permanent improvement process works. So I did want to highlight that within these pieces of legislation. But I would ask that the board really consider as board policy to provide the administration more guidance, and we take a deeper look into our contracting as well as LEDE policies.
I agree 100% with Board Member Adair.
Thank you. Board Member Cole.
Thank you. I concur with what was just stated. I guess my question more is along the lines of how does this bidding process, non-competitive or cooperative, help to ensure quality of work? For me, the greatest value as it relates to safety, the greatest value as it relates to longevity is around quality of work. Can we talk a little bit about how the bidding process helps to ensure quality of work?
For sure. So President Vera to Board Member Cole, if you'll entertain me, I kind of have a few thoughts around several of the questions that have come up that I'd like to provide a little more insight on. So the construction world is different from the transportation world. So what I'm going to share with you really only applies to our capital improvements work, but we essentially have 4 tools in our procurement tool belt when it comes to any project that we're going to entertain. So we have the traditional bid process, which I think everybody's very familiar with. We have design build, which we have pushed into very heavily since we started our HVAC initiative back in 2016. We have construction manager at risk, which we've only used one time, but we're about to launch our second CMR project. We're quite excited about that one. And then we have cooperative purchasing. Cooperative purchasing is probably the least straightforward because there are multiple different ways to procure through cooperative purchasing. Each one is kind of owned by the agency that runs it. And so one thing I do want to mention is that, so I would advocate that if our only goal is the least expensive price, for any particular commodity, we should bid all day long. The bid process is designed specifically to establish the minimum bar for quality, and then you drive price. Like that is the goal of the bid process. Even at the state level, you'll see that there is a big move towards best value selection. So that's where you weigh quality with price. And how you establish the ranking of those two is completely up to us as the owner to determine how we want to prioritize those things. And so I would say that cooperative purchasing very much falls into that best value component versus price. Now, if we're looking at commodities, so buses, playgrounds, equipment, things that are truly coming from a factory, then yes, we are going to drive towards price, most typically because those contracts are looking at aggregating across multiple agencies. When we look at things like job order contracting, we really are thinking more in terms of that best value. So we're not necessarily driving towards the lowest price. We're looking at our projects that we know have incredibly compressed schedules, particularly summer work, and making sure that we are getting the best value for that work, not necessarily driving towards the lowest price. One other thing I want to respond to, so remembering that those cooperative contracts are not procured by this district, they are procured by a different agency. So I think in all circumstances, they were not thinking of us, Columbus City Schools, using those contracts. We are literally piggybacking off an existing contract, but we are in active discussions literally as we speak, like communications going out today with one of our major partners, that being Gordian and Equalis, that as we have moved further into that work and we have seen the positive results from that relationship, that we also want to foster that LEDE component. But again, it's not their fault. We were not sitting at the table with them when Equalis put out that contract. But when that contract does renew, assuming that you permit us to continue down that path, we are certainly looking to make sure that we are making those connections with our LEDE vendors, and so that they can and they will participate in those contracts, potentially as prime contractors. But the part that we have control over today is the subcontracting. And so there are very few cooperative contracts that we have brought to you that do not meet that 20% LEDE goal, because that is the very first conversation we're having with these vendors as we're starting conversations around how to procure the work.
Can you say that last part again?
So
There's
as
not any contract that you've brought to us that?
I didn't say there aren't any. There are a few. So like I'll give you an example. So I know we brought a major contract to you with landscape structures for playground equipment. There really is no opportunity to subcontract. We are buying equipment from a manufacturer. They are going to deliver it to us here at CCS. So that one I will tell you, I know has 0% participation, but most of the others are hitting the 20% goal.
Board Member Pierce.
So I'm just paraphrasing, I want to make sure that I'm understanding this. A cooperative bid gives us the opportunity to get the best quality for a job. However, we sacrifice potentially our LEDE percentage.
President Vera, to Board Member Pierce's question, I don't know if I would agree with this statement. It certainly gives us more flexibility and latitude to establish the scope of work, which is really important for us. And again, like when we have that initial scoping meeting with our contractors, we're talking about what the opportunities are to subcontract. Like I think one of the things we have to be mindful of is we're hiring a vendor with an expertise. And so I don't want them to subcontract that critical component. We're hiring them for their expertise. And so especially on the smaller contracts, it becomes much harder for them to subcontract work. But as the contracts get larger, there are naturally going to be subcontracting opportunities, and we're absolutely asking them to look at every avenue to make sure they're hitting that 20%
So
goal.
when we work with larger contracts, we have more of an opportunity to make our LEDE. But when it's smaller contracts, less of an opportunity?
I would say in general, that is a fair statement. It does depend on the work, you know, so some work is very one trade specific. So again, it's hard for a vendor to justify subcontracting and stuff. Like, let's use flooring as an example. If you're reflooring this entire room, are you going to subcontract out a portion of it to somebody else? Versus if I'm asking you to renovate this whole room and you've got ceiling work, you've got carpet work, you've got drywall and paint, like certain contracts lend themselves because they have multiple trades to having multiple subcontracts. So it is kind of project specific. And so that's where, like, when we go through that LEDE checklist, you know, sometimes saying that something's unbundled actually does not work in our favor. It really does depend on the project. Sometimes unbundling creates more opportunities for LEDs, but sometimes it creates less opportunity to subcontract. So it really is very project specific for us.
And since both of you are up here, last question. Last year, did we hit our LEDE percentage that we have as a board?
As a whole, as a district, it was at 14%.
And our percentage, our goal is?
Our goal is 20%.
Are we on track to hit it this year?
I have to pull that, I don't have that number handy to speak to that.
First quarter, just wondering.
In operations last year, we hit the goal.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to allow, we have 4 other legislation. So I will allow one more question, Board Member Simmons, as it relates to 16.1.
Just one moment, because I had 4 written down.
I know, so we might have to just,
pick. Hang
you,
on.
you have a
Would
4.
Would you give me 5 minutes of grace, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. Are they all lived in? Okay. All right.
Mr. Oldham, you had mentioned that, for something like buying buses, when we're a larger buyer, we're getting a much better price because that's bulk. And I suppose that does make a lot of sense. But for something like HVAC work or ceiling work or tile work, where we're not necessarily, buying or contracting out for every building in the district at once, we're kind of piecemealing it out. How do we know specifically what data, not the exact numbers, but what metrics is the district using to really zone in on if these cooperative agreements are in fact cheaper? I guess the question I have is, if we're saying they're cheaper, that's great. What data are we looking at that tells us they're actually cheaper?
So again, as stated earlier, each project is specific and different. It's looking at what is time.
Could you give me a project example?
Let's say we have a situation where it's a repair service that's impacting cooling season getting ready to start, heating season getting ready to start. In HVAC.
Okay.
It could be, you got heating, you have the cooling. And let's say that it's a project that's time sensitive that needs to be completed. If you put it out for a bid process, the bid process take a certain period of time. You got to advertise, you bid it, and bids can take anywhere from a month, 2 months, whatever the time to procure it, and then you have to get the timing to get it to the board and all that. It can take time. When you have a cooperative, for example, cooperative process, or let's say it's a specialty. One recently was the multi-chiller stack at one of the sites, and that required specialty certification to do that work as well.
Just to go back to the timing issue, our board policy, PO 6440, says that the board shall encourage the administration to seek advantages and savings that may occur to this district through joint agreements. It doesn't really speak to that the board is encouraging the administration to seek these agreements when it results in a saving of time. So I guess where the disconnect is for me, a saving to time, what might be administratively easier or what might be more convenient, it doesn't appear, at least to my reading of our board policy, that it's permitted for that. It seems to really address the dollar amount, not, oh, it's going to take 6 months to do the work we want to do, so we're going to go the easier route and go to a competitive bid.
So let me clarify.
Excuse me, Maurice, I'll just would like to respond to that and saying this is not a time in terms of convenience for the administration. This is time in terms of convenience for operating and providing services in a school building. If we are going to replace the windows at an elementary school, we would not do that during the school year because that would be a direct interruption in school services and classroom instruction, which is our #1 priority. The only time that we would have to replace the windows in an elementary school, middle, or high school would be after school is out. And so the bidding process, as our team has explained now twice, the bidding process does not allow for us to, the calendar of time to make these projects fit with the schedule of the calendar year. And all of the decisions that we make as an administration, we have to also be thinking about the school calendar because we have to be sensitive to that because of how these operations impact school time. So the question would be, if the bidding process is when we receive the funding and we map out the projects, if the bidding process allows for time to ensure that the project will be able to happen during non-instructional days, then that would certainly be a route to consider. The team has explained that the cooperative purchasing process allows us an opportunity to focus on quality. Time would be secondary, specifically as it relates to the school calendar. So if there are additional questions about that, I think that we can certainly table those and bring it back for a future meeting. But thank you, team, for explaining the difference between the bidding process and the cooperating purchasing process, and we can continue to have in-depth discussions about that and also compare our practices to other districts, large urban districts our size, districts within the state. This could be certainly an area for further discussion and certainly would have an impact on the board's policies. The board's policies are how we govern at the administration. The board has given us latitude in this area. If this is an area that the board would like to reconsider and change their policy, policies, again, our team will certainly respond and make sure that we follow the board policies as well as your discretion.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Chapman. Thank you, team. All right, so I am going to go ahead and close discussion at this time. I know, were there any other specific items, Board Member Adair?
I just really quickly wanted to just highlight item 13.1, which is the Forward Next Generation legislation. This is exciting because it's the next step in Dr. Chapman's vision. And I just wanted to highlight that this work is going to be around the next phase and working with our CTE to really continue our work on our long-term vision to create career academies and to produce the kind of educational opportunities and experiences we want for our children. So I just wanted to highlight that piece of legislation.
Thank you, Board Member Adair. All right, any other discussion? Good. Seeing none, please call the roll.
President Vera?
Yes.
Ms. Adair?
Yes, with the exception of 19.1, from which I abstain because my mother's contract is on it.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Ingles?
Yes.
Vice President Dr. Pierce?
With the exception of 16.1, 16.2, 16.3, 18.1, and 18.2, which I'm voting no, yes.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
No.
Motion carries.
Thank you. I do want to highlight, we did have, let's see, I lost it. We had our adult. I wanted to highlight item 13.4. Just wanted to recognize that we did have another student graduate from our adult high school diploma program. So just wanted to congratulate that student. All right, moving on. We do not have any members here to speak about non-agenda items, and we do have a motion for an executive session. Dr. Pierce, Vice President Pierce.
Thank you so much. I move that the Board of Education recess into executive session per section 121.22 G1 Ohio Revised Code to consider the appointment, employment, or compensation of public employees, and per section 121.22.
That's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Ms. Adair?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Ingles?
Yes.
Vice President Dr. Pierce?
Yes.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
President Vera?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Before we close for this evening, I do want to highlight that today is Vice President Dr. Tina Pierce's birthday, and we also had Board Member Ingles' birthday, which was yesterday. So I just wanted to highlight happy birthday and thank you for being here with us.
So do we get to
Yeah,
acknowledge
when is
that
yours?
your birthday?
It's Thursday,
It's
Aquarius
Thursday, so
season,
Aquarius
absolutely.
season right here.
Yes.
Happy birthday
Thank
to
you.
our board president.
All right. All right. Have a good evening. Thank you.
Everybody.
I get what they're saying about the time, but the policy.